Among the misconceptions about meditation is one where, like, if you're meditating, your mind will be blank or will be clear, that you'll make your mind blank, which is, of course, ridiculous. First of all, you can't make your mind blank. And if you try, you're just going to wind up with a gigantic headache. And second of all, I mean, it would not be desirable because a blank mind, what is that? There's no awareness whatsoever. But when we're sitting, for instance, and we're attending to experience, especially in the early stages when you haven't practiced a lot with mindfulness of thinking, your thinking can seem like an obstacle. Damn, I'd be a great mindfulness practitioner if it weren't for the fact that these thoughts just won't leave me alone. They're just like buzzing around me like, flies, like mosquitoes. Sometimes a classical analogy is that the mind is a lot like a large body of water, like the ocean. And depending on atmospheric conditions, it can be totally calm. And we've all had moments, at least glimpses, where we were so calm that it felt really, really, really special. And we can even remember those very few moments in our lives when we felt so calm. And then the mind starts going and becomes sometimes seriously oppressive, and we want to be freed from it, liberated from this oppressive mind. And the idea is like, if only I could learn to meditate and just shut off my mind, then everything would be great. Make my mind go blank. Well, that's tantamount to taking a body of water like the Atlantic Ocean or Pacific Ocean or whatever it is, and expecting that it should always be flat. Yes, when atmospheric conditions are just right, as sailors know, you could be calmed for days, that there's no wind and the water is like glass. That same ocean, the next day, can have waves 100 feet high, enormously turbulent. It's just like that with the surface of the mind. The thoughts are the waves. They're turbulent and they're driven by emotions. So depending on circumstances and how caught up you are in the emotional valence of whatever you're thinking about or the circumstances you're in, it can be really tumultuous and really stressful and really disorienting. But we all know this too. If you drop down under the surface of the ocean, 20 or 30 meters, even in the midst of hurricane force waves and winds, gentle undulation, just total calm. It's the same with the mind, that the more you learn to drop in, even though things are agitated up here and caught up and so forth, when you drop into awareness itself, that agitation is already in a much, much bigger space, almost as if to reverse the direction, instead of going down where there's nothing but stillness, if you go up 30 or 40,000 feet in an airplane, those waves look like just little ripples in the mind. Well, that's what the meditation practice can offer, is a new way to be in relationship with the waving of the mind, so that one, we don't get caught up in it. Two, we don't take it personally, because the content is really very often extremely emotional and turbulent and challenging. But then we can find the calmness right here, right now, stabilize that calmness by exercising the muscle and practicing. We get better and better at actually dropping into stillness. And then not trying to fix or make it all go away, but to just let it do its thing. So over time, of course, all those storms dissolve. So you could think of emotions and thoughts as kind of, especially turbulent ones, as weather patterns in the mind. And what mindfulness does is allow you to actually apprehend the weather conditions, not take any of it personally or get caught up in it, and be in relationship to it in such a way as it doesn't sink your ship. if you recall, my working definition or operational definition of mindfulness, it's the awareness that arises from paying attention on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally. And when we pay attention, usually we're paying attention to something. So that something is technically called an object of attention. So for instance, the breath sensations in the body could be thought of as a kind of object or range of objects of attention because it's always changing. Hearing, if we're practicing attending through the ears to hearing, then sounds would be the object of attention. We could make thoughts the object of attention. Any kind of body sensation, not just breath sensations, but any sensations in the body, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, objects of attention. Maybe we can do it right now. We'll just let's just sit for a few moments, establish yourself once again in a posture that embodies wakefulness and dignity. This won't take very long. Tune into the breath moving in the body and a sense of the body as a whole sitting here breathing. And with no agenda other than to be awake. So we're not trying to get anywhere. We're just inviting ourselves to be where we already are. And then let's shift from attending to the belly or wherever in the body the breath sensations are most important. And of course, you're going to keep breathing and those sensations will still be part of the repertoire of your experience. But let's actually focus in to the ears. Focus in on the ears and hearing whatever is here to be heard. That would be sounds and the spaces between them, and the silence that actually encompasses all sound. And noticing if a sound arises, how quickly the mind is going to label it, where it comes from, what the source is, whether you like it or don't like it. So let's see if we can write ourselves a little restraining order on that score, not that we're forcing anything, but to simply hear what's here to be heard. And not adorning it with our usual kind of overlay. And so we're letting the sounds come to us. We don't have to go out searching through the ears and scanning the world like a radar for sounds. There's all sorts of sounds in a room, even if the mind says, well, I can't hear anything, there's no sounds. There's always sound, inwardly, outwardly. But so this is how we relate to sounds. The cardinal thing to keep in mind with the entirety of this course, and if you remember nothing else and quit the course before you go anywhere else, just remember this. The meditation practice is not about the objects of attention. It's about the attending itself. Okay? So even the breath, which we pay a lot of attention to the breath, but it's not about the breath. We're utilizing the breath as a way to ride herd on and lasso in and befriend and familiarize ourselves with the nature of what the mind and the body is doing and the world. So it's a very, very broad palette. And the objects of attention are vehicles or pathways or, sort of conduits by which we can actually learn how to attend. That's the function of awareness. Okay, so the flashlight of attention, shine it on the belly, shine it on the breath sensations or whatever. But the object, we're not interested primarily in whatever the object of attention is. It could be anything. But what we're very interested in is the attending. What if we invited a thought mirror into awareness? So with a mirror, something comes in front of the mirror, it's there, it's here. And then it goes, and the mirror doesn't reach out and try to grab the object. No, the mirror is completely open. And when red comes, reflects red. Blue comes, it reflects blue. It doesn't say, oh, like I have an allegiance to red. Sorry, I don't reflect blue or white or black or brown or anything. It's just like the mirror is just reflecting what's over here. Okay. Now, what if we relate it to thought in the same way? This thought arises of like how I got to go shopping for dinner, and it comes and it goes, and the mirror doesn't pursue it, it doesn't hang on to it, it doesn't push it away. It's just neutral. It sees a thought arising as an event in the field of awareness, just an event, and then it's gone. And then if you don't feed them, they come and they go. They arise and they pass away. And very, very quickly. But then the next thought will come up very, very quickly, because that's what we're in the habit of doing with thoughts. Is like it's one after another, and it's like drive ourselves crazy, we say. And that then we blame for what. The reason I'm like that is because she drives me crazy. Okay. Oh, I see. She has that much power that she can actually drive you crazy. Interesting. Who gave her that much power? So you can begin to actually see that our thoughts are unbelievably powerful, and we just let them come, linger, go, and we don't mess around with them. We don't entertain them. We let them just be, and we see their nature as thought rather than as truth. So that's the experiential network, you see, as opposed to the default mode network, where it's just one thought leading to another, and you're carried off in the thought stream. But here it's like thought arises fine, sensation arises fine, breath arises fine, another thought arises, no problem, because you're cultivating equanimity and balance of mind, and not identifying with the narratives or the emotional charge that a lot of thoughts so strongly carry. So that's a sort of thumbnail glimpse of how we could actually work with really even very, very toxic thoughts. But it's best if you not start with the most toxic thoughts, but start with like little things like, even how long you'll meditate. Like, God, I've been meditating a long time. Is that the truth, or is that a thought? And why is that thought arising in the mind? Well, maybe you had a little twinge in your backside, or in your lower back, or something like that. Or some thought came through your mind and you realize, oh my God, I got things to do today. And here I am practicing all this non-doing. But meanwhile, the world, it keeps going. And I got stuff to do. I'm a busy person. So an infinite number of ways to actually subvert and betray your commitment to, for this moment of now, just be fully present. But when you put out the welcome mat for thoughts, then we can just watch them with as much dispassion, so to speak, as a mirror reflecting whatever comes before it. And the mirror doesn't say, wow, they put me in a closet and I'm so lonely, I have nothing to reflect and it's dark in here. The mirror is just being itself no matter what. And you can too. In 1890, William James, who is often spoken of as the father of American psychology, made the following statement in his Principles of Psychology. The faculty of bringing back a wandering attention over and over again is the very root of judgment, character, and will. Nobody is compos sui if he have it not. Compos sui means master of herself or master of himself. An education which would improve this capacity would be the education par excellence. But it is easier to define this ideal than to give practical suggestions for bringing it about. The faculty of bringing back a wandering attention over and over again is the very root of judgment, character, and will. The education par excellence. So the mind goes off, you bring it back over and over again. And he says nobody is, in his right mind without this. And it would be the education par excellence, but it's easier to define it. It wasn't that easy to define it. William James was a total genius to recognize this. But practical instructions for bringing it about, you know what the practical instructions for bringing it about are called? They're called mindfulness. And so here's a little, sort of acting out of it. You're sitting here and you're intending to be Mr. Mindful or Miss Mindful. I'm going to really throw myself into this. Because even William James said this would be the education par excellence. You're sitting there with all good intention, and say you're following your breath, which means you're feeling the breath sensations in the body moment by moment. And then all of a sudden you notice the mind is off someplace else. It's having dinner with somebody in LA or God knows what. I mean, it could be the past, it could be the future, it could be worry, it could be anticipation, it could be, whatever. And here's the practical means for bringing it about, that he was complaining wasn't available. You see what's on your mind. You notice that it's drifted away from the breath. And then you note what's on your mind, and you just come back to the belly or to the, nostrils or wherever the breath sensations are most vivid. And then guess what? Within a few seconds, your mind is going to go off again. And you bring it back again, and you bring it back again. And over time, bring it back, goes off, bring it back, goes off, and bring it back. It's just as if you had a weight in your hand, because sometimes, it goes off and you don't want to bring it back because you're fatigued, you're tired. It's like, this is so boring. I hate meditating. You bring it back anyway. That's the discipline. You're working with the weight if you're lifting weights. Nobody likes to lift weights at a certain point, but you lift the weight because the weight is your collaborator in strengthening and growing something. So the mind wandering is actually your ally in showing you how unruly the untamed mind is, but it's actually trainable. It's tameable. When you're watching a football game or a basketball game, those are the ones where things happen fairly fast. We usually watch on TV with endless commentary from the sports announcers. It might be useful sometimes to just play with or experiment with pretending that you're watching a game inside your own head. And lo and behold, there's this bloody commentator that's just endlessly talking about, like, sit up straight, throwing meditation instructions at you. Drop in on your breath, stop, drop, whatever it is. They pick up the lingo very quickly and then tells you, you'd be a great meditator if only you sat up straighter, or don't get caught up in all those thoughts, or whatever. And this could all be seen as kind of like commentary. that's totally unnecessary. It's not the meditation practice at all. It's you doing commentary on yourself about how bad a meditator you are. But if you only listen to that voice of the commentator, then you'd be sitting up straight and riding on the waves of your breath and letting go of thoughts as they arose and seeing them as they are and not getting caught in them and all of that stuff. So there are two ways you can work. One is, okay, commentator, if you're so good at this, why don't you take over and you do the meditation practice? But the best way to do it is to just shut down the volume, turn down the sound on the commentator and watch the game. Apprehend the game. Let the game of whatever your experience is in the present moment come to the fore. And then it turns out that there's nothing that's not part of the game. If it happened, it's part of the game. It's part of the adventure. It's part of the love affair. This thought arose. You don't want to deal with that thought, but it arose. So can you just see it as a thought and see you're not wanting to deal with it? That's called aversion. So aversion has arisen, but the awareness is not at all touched by either the thought or the aversion. So there, you're already free. If you don't feed it, it will just attenuate on its own. Next. And it will be a steady stream of stuff that now you don't have the commentator's volume up, so you can just watch the game.